everyone, and welcome to the beginning of my bass drum tuning series. Now, in this series, I'm going to be showing you how to do a 20-inch bass drum. We're going to be putting brand new heads on so you can kind of see the procedure of how it goes and understand how to put it on, how to stretch it out, and then we're going to go through some traditional things that people have had problems with that they do, but don't really get the best tone for the drum. Now, to start off, we're going with the stock Rogers heads that were on my kit that I used in my video that you might have seen on my YouTube channel, and they are single ply ambassadors, no rings, no nothing. But I did put an Evans EQ pad inside, and you can kind of get an idea of what a single ply coated head sounds like. So if you're looking for a tight, punchy, traditional 60s or 70s kind of bass drum sound, especially out of your 20, this might be the head you want. Now, me personally, I like having the rings and reducing the muffling in the drum and letting it have a more modern, big, fat sound. But this is a sound that is commonly heard on old recordings. And in order to make this happen, I actually had to tighten up my back bass drum head up a little bit. So I have a B flat on the back, a G on the front, which is basically like a little minor third in between the two. And it sounds great. It's like punch central. So we're going to play it a little bit, and then we're going to take the bass drum out, change heads out, and let's get this on. But for now, let's hear what a tighter back head, looser front head, B flat to G sounds like on this 20-inch with coated, ambassador, single ply heads, no rings. Now, what you can hear in that situation is a lot of thump, a good attack, and a nice fat but tight bottom end. Now, thankfully, this Rogers kick has bottom end for days, so you get a lot of depth out of it, because we have no port in the front head. So these are some of the things I recommend just ahead of time before we get into head changing. For drummers using no port, you want to keep that front head a little bit loose and warm, not wrinkly. We're going to look at that in just a sec. We don't want a wrinkle thing, but we do want to get a little bit of looseness to it so it can breathe and resonate and the mic can get all that bottom end. Then you don't get that high-end basketball ring. You have a little bit more lowness to it. And then by having the back head tight, you get a little bit more punch and you get a little bit more rebound, because if you have it loose on a 20-inch, sometimes it can feel a little bit wetter, a little bit looser, and your foot sinks into it a little too much. But having that tightness in the back on this little 20 really helps, and it gives you a nice punchy sound. We'll drop these snares so they all the way off, and we can just hear bass drum. Oh, listen to that bottom end. You can hear that front head resonate and really give you kind of that full bass drum. And that's what that front head being super low but not wrinkled gives you. And having a little bit of tightness in the back gives you that attack that you were desperately wanting in a bass drum this small without sacrificing bottom end. All right, y'all. Now, I wanted to make sure I emphasized one of the concepts I'm talking about in this bass drum tuning series that I like to see players avoid. Now, a lot of people like to have that loose front head, sometimes almost wrinkled, because it's a quick way to control the bass tone or control the ring, or worse, if it's tight, you get that high basketball sound, and you don't want that. However, this head has no wrinkles in it, and it's pretty loose, really big low end. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, using stereo tuning and making sure I'm looking at it the right way, I'm going to take this bass drum head down all the way, set of half turns, all the way, set of half turns, and hopefully we'll get that wrinkle that I'm looking for. Oh, there it is. There's some wrinkles right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and drum a little bit on this drum and let you hear what that sounds like compared to what you just heard, because my hope is that even if you want that loose front head, if you keep it loose and it's perfectly balanced, it's going to give you that maximum amount of bass tone that you can then let your engineer control or control in the studio. But if you have no tone, there's simply no tone. You can't create tone. You can control it, but you can't create it. So let's see what this sounds like with an absolutely wrinkled up front head. Let's get it on. Okay, y'all, so let's go ahead and do a little drumming with this front head all wrinkly. And again, this is something as a tech I come across, especially in private drum tuning lessons, with some of my drummers here in Austin, Texas, where they're like, we don't know what to do with the bass drum, so I just kind of wrinkled it up. And I'm like, hey, man, if it worked for the show or it ended up working for you for the short term, that's great. But now we're going to take a look at what it sounds like comparatively so you can see just how much bottom end you're really starting to lose and flap you end up getting in not real clear tones. So let's go ahead and play this and see what we got. I haven't even listened yet. Now, I'm going to shorten these cymbals quickly and just be kind of honest with you. It seems like my floor tom has more bottom end than my bass drum. See how it's all gone? Wait, where'd it go? Bass drum bottom, where'd you go? Oh, there's a rumble there, but it's not rich. It's not defined. I'll even shut these snares off and it's gone. It's just literally gone. Even if I don't hit the pedal, gone. It's just kind of, It sits there. So again, if you like that big low bottom end out of your front head, you don't want a basketball sound, and you don't want it to be too much bass drum front head with too much resonance, just make sure we have it above wrinkle. So let's go take a look at how that looks and how we could do it with our hands to get that defined sound out of that front bass drum. We're gonna turn it back up to where it needs to be, put it back up, and then we're putting some new heads on, y'all. But until then, let's go look at that wrinkly head and show you how to fix it.